come here quick. I'm just going to bring you on. I'm not going to just very quickly while I've got some time. Travis is one of the best speakers we have. And he fights all the time, and he negotiates with the cops. Billy, are you here, Billy? Wherever Billy is the same. There's little Tanya, there's Tammy Jane, and Anthony Burge. Anthony Burge, Crohn's disease, gets up, streams it always, keeps the message going out. These guys are your heroes. Look for their images. They are the real heroes. They fight constantly. Travis, you're a hero, man. And now I want to bring on another hero. She was a school teacher, came to a march just to see what was going on, ended up holding a loudspeaker because no one else wanted to hold it because everyone was terrified, and then she got arrested by the police. But instead of crushing her spirit, they created Abby Drummond.
It's extreme. Whoa.
What media are you?
Sorry, very overwhelming. Thank you all so much for coming. This is absolutely incredible, and it's so good to see you all here. I'm just going to speak, so in case you didn't know, I'm not used to hearing my voice this loud, sorry. So yesterday was the anniversary for the Eureka stockade on the 3rd of December. So if you have a look around, we have a couple of the Eureka flags here today. So woo! So the Eureka stockade, otherwise known as the Eureka Rebellion, took place on the 3rd of December in 1854. The rebellion was the culmination of long-standing grievances on the part of miners over exorbitant miner licence fees, brutal police procedures for collecting fees, lack of votes, and a lack of reputation in the Legislative Council. So can you believe that we are still facing the issues that we are today, even though that has happened in our past in 1854? The rebellion was formed on the 11th of November by the Ballarat Reform League to petition the Governor, Charles Hotham, for redress of their grievances. Hotham's response was promising. However, troops soon arrived as reinforcement, which led to further clashes. The troops and the police surrounded the 150 diggers who refused to leave where they assembled. A battle took place where it was believed that 25 miners were killed by troops and police, and many were injured. So the flags that you can see today were created and flown as a gesture of defiance. Woohoo! They were designed deliberately to exclude the British Union flag and to represent the Southern Cross. So just a little bit about me. So I am 24 years old. I am a teacher, and I'm extremely transparent about the very small amount of political knowledge I have. So growing up, and even today, I can't believe how little I know, and I think that that's come from living in a very comfortable country and not having to challenge the rights that we should have and that we have had previously that are now being challenged. So I've been able to cruise along in my 34 years and not have to worry too much about my freedoms, but yet we stand here today fighting for this. I'm also a teacher, and I feel like very little is discussed in our schools. Our next generation are not educated on what politics are, on what the impact that our politicians have on our lives, and what responsibility we can play as citizens to vote and to be aware of, you know, what it means to be a citizen in this country. So as a teacher, looking at this and understanding how little knowledge I have, and being able to recognise that really our education system is failing our generation that's growing up now. They are failing them because they are not discussing these rights. They're not discussing their rights. They're not discussing the impact of politics. And they're not reflecting on history. History is repeating itself. Let's make that clear. We need to educate our children, and the education system is failing them. So what I want to do today is I want to encourage all of you, mums, dads, grandparents, aunties, uncles, to sit down with the younger generation to speak to them. Speak to them about what's happening. Because knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. And what we need to do is we need to build our generation, our next generation, to be courageous, to be strong, to be full of knowledge, to know their rights, to know how to stand up to them, so that history will stop repeating itself. I encourage you all, please, let's fight for our next generation by empowering them with knowledge. Let's use that. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming. Freedom! Woo!
Ladies and gentlemen, Abby Drummond. All Daniel Andrews is doing is making us all go down the wormhole and have a look at the Constitution and what's happening to Australia. So I guess we should thank you for that, Daniel. And let's not forget that 30 diggers died on that day in Ballarat over 150 years ago. I guess it goes to show that the troopers aren't always firing rubber bullets. That's something we might want to remember. I can't believe I'm standing up here saying this in all seriousness. I think we all had a moment where we went, shit, what the hell's going on in this country? And a really big moment for me came when I was watching a YouTube clip of a woman in Ballarat who was organising a bit of a gathering to resist what the government was doing. Of course, 2 forerunners to the COVID police had turned up at her place and cuffed this pregnant mother in her kitchen because Dan Andrews loves women. Just ask him. He wraps himself in the cloak of feminism all the time. Didn't care for this pregnant mother. I was incredulous at first. I thought, nah, this can't be happening. I looked at my Facebook feed and all the lefties were saying, oh no, it's not for real, it's a setup, it's such bad acting. But it was real. And there was no apology from the lefties. They just let it go. Like they don't want to know what's happening in their country. It's a fraud, an absolute fraud. Well, we're here today to fight for truth and justice. So we have that very mother with us, and she's going to come on and speak now. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for a big warm welcome to Zoe Bueller.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, as you all know, my name is Zoe Lee Bueller. Most people know me as the woman who was arrested pregnant in her pajamas. Approximately 16 months ago, private investigators from the Ballarat Police Unit arrested me in front of my children in my home for incitement. For creating an event on Facebook called Peaceful Protest in hope to support my community and help those who have been suffering. I recorded the arrest live on Facebook and reached over 5 million people. I am here to thank you all for sharing my story.
Thank you, Zoe.
The arrest has affected me and my family in a great way and still does to this day. Instead of having an enjoyable pregnancy with my partner, I was placed into a state of extreme stress, anxiety, and concern for my family. My daughter is now 8 months old, and the pain from this experience still lingers on. I am due to face court on December 10th, and my lawyers tell me that this may be dragged out until mid-2022. I have had enough! My beautiful children have been led to believe that their mother is a criminal. I am not a criminal! I am here to show my children that we can make a difference, that regardless of what's thrown your way, holding on to hope, faith, and trust in humanity, we can get through anything together. My fight isn't over, but being seen here today has given me the strength to carry on to tell my story. For myself, for my family, and for my children. Thank you for being here today as we rise together to make a stand for freedom in this country we call home. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Zoe Bueller.
Together we rise! Together we rise! Together we rise! Together we rise! Thank you.
Zoe, I've got a feeling that your children know who the criminal is. And it's not you. There's criminals in the media corporate elite rolling out all over the world. Well, don't worry, we see you. We're talking about the COVID police. Well, they continue on the COVID police. I was watching a YouTube again, and then I saw the police going into a doctor's surgery, taking all of his records. All of our records. Because Danny Andrews wants to see them. Why does he want to see my colon cancer, you might ask? Well, ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to introduce you to that very doctor. Can you please put your hands together for the courageous Mark Hobart.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. My name is Mark Hobart. I graduated in medicine in 1981. I'm not allowed to call myself doctor anymore. If I do, I risk 3 years jail or a $60,000 fine. On the 1st of November, I had a visit from authorised officers from the Department of Health. They wanted my patient's files. I said, no, I'm not giving you my patient's files. They said, why not? I said, because they're private and confidential. And he asked me a question again. Are you going to give me your patient's files? I said no. And what's your excuse? Because they're private and confidential. He said, under the new laws, there is no such thing as private and confidential patient files. He said to me, are you going to give me your patient's files? I said, no, my law is much older than your law. My law goes back 2,500 years ago to the Hippocratic Oath. Patient confidentiality and privacy is the cornerstone of medical ethics. He said, don't make me have to do this to you, Dr. Hobart.
Close, like you touch.
He went outside and then came back and said, as of this moment, your clinic is shut down. No patients are allowed to enter your clinic from now on until we say so. That was the 1st of November. On the 10th of November, I was raided by authorised officers from the health department again. This time there were 7. They stole my files this time. Not many, but a few. In fact, probably 5. I don't really know because they wouldn't tell me which file they'd taken. I applied a Victorian Supreme Court injunction a week later to get them to return my files and other documents they'd seized. The judge refused that injunction. On November the 11th, the APRA, Australian Health Practitioner Regulation Authority, suspended my registration because I was a risk to public health. And now, on December the 2nd, 2 days ago, APRA sent me a letter threatening to jail me if I claim to present myself as a registered doctor. So, let's fight for freedom. Thank you very much.
Okay, he's not allowed to call himself a doctor, so let's us call him a doctor. Dr. Hobart! Dr. Hobart! Dr. Hobart! He's a hero, man. And while we're talking about hero doctors, we got another one. Because to become a hero doctor now, all you got to do is tell the truth. APRA doesn't like doctors telling the truth. They don't like them following their Hippocratic Oath. I know. So, I am happy to introduce Peter Johnson. Now, Peter has been a doctor for 56 years, and I want to call him Dr. Peter Johnson, because he's not allowed to say it, so we'll say it. Now, for 3 years, he was an anaesthetist in the Vietnam War in Vietnam. Then he came back here, and he was basically a GP for the rest of his life, until he resigned, hearing the practice that they were planning to inject 12 to 15-year-olds with the vaccine. But instead of just walking away, he, since running into trouble with APRA and suggested, oh yeah, that's right. So basically what happened, a patient turned up and didn't want the vaccine, and he said, well, maybe you should just wait. Her husband dobbed her into APRA, and now he's here with us. But he, instead of giving in, this warrior has set up the Healthcare Workers for Truth, and it focuses on healthcare. All people who have doubts about COVID narrative are welcome to join, so look it up. Healthcare Workers for the Truth. I've seen it on Twitter, it's probably on other platforms. As well as it being a support group for New Lepers of Dan's Melbourne group. The New Lepers, that's us! His group aims to warn people of dangers of giving experimental drug to our children, and that's what we're here for. We're here for our children. So let's welcome him with a big warm round of applause, Dr. Peter Johnson.
To hell with 3 years, I'm Dr. Johnson. As a doctor, I've vaccinated people for 55 of my 56 years, so I'm not sure I qualify as an anti-vaxxer. But nor does this COVID jab qualify as a vaccine. All previous vaccines stimulated the immune system to do its own thing. But these COVID jabs are telling the immune system what to do. They're like our Premier. So why is it called a vaccine? It's mainly to give it credibility. Because if Pfizer and AstraZeneca had to rely on their own reputation, they'd be in deep shit. They've faced countless lawsuits for healthcare fraud, and they're basically criminal outfits with deep pockets. And those pockets are getting deeper this year. Pfizer raked in $57 billion in the first 9 months of this year. It's a credit to their policy of putting wealth ahead of health. It's much more profitable to sell booster doses to wealthy nations than to give any to the third world. And yet, the third world, the poorer countries have had to make do with what they had, and they've done an amazing job. Among the remedies they used, they found 2 gems. For 40 years they've used 2 really simple and available medications to treat the endemic parasitic diseases they get that we don't see in Australia. And taken in standard doses, ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine not only are they safe, they're very effective. There were 66 trials done on ivermectin for COVID worldwide, all of them very successful. And this drug keeps people out of hospital. Africa is now virtually free of COVID, despite having only 6% of its population vaccinated. It has achieved herd immunity in the way we always did. You allow the virus allow people to meet the virus, deal with their symptoms while their immune system gets on top of it. Africa, compared to Europe, which is the most vaccinated continent, has experienced 10 times Africa's mortality, and it's getting worse as Europe enters winter. Now, Australia could have followed the science. Instead, our medical authorities banned the importation of both these readily available, inexpensive cures. Not only did they block Australians from buying them over the counter, as we've seen with Mark, they've banned doctors from prescribing them. They forced doctors to say that the jab was the only available treatment for COVID-19. And if they allowed an exemption for anybody, they get suspended or put out of business. So, having denied Australians the medicines to cure COVID, how successful have these jabs been? They were created to beat the original COVID-19, which has disappeared, and they worked very well. In the countries like Israel and UK and Europe that started early this year, by June were popping the corks because their numbers were down to almost single figures. It had worked well, but then along came Delta. And from there on, case numbers have gone up. And ever since, in every country now, wherever there are high vaccination rates, there are high case numbers. A successful vaccine prevents people getting a disease and transmitting it. These so-called vaccines do neither.
That's right.
I'm sorry to tell many of you have had it, but they just don't work against the Delta. Even Fauci has had to admit it. So when the mainstream media tells you the vaccines are protecting you, they're basically trying to put lipstick on a pig. They also won't work against the Omicron strain. I think you call it moronic down here, don't you? Now, this strain must have been brought into New South Wales by jabbed people, because no, the unjabbed can't get into the country. So it's already failing for them. And what we learnt in science over the 50 years is that if Big Pharma reworks this drug to combat Delta and Omicron, the virus will just mutate to another strain. Because once you use a drug, it's what we learnt with antibiotics. When you fight microbes with drugs, they're not stupid. They produce resistant strains. That's why we've got superbugs.
We're the superbugs.
Now, the idea of a vaccine passport to reduce the spread is absolute nonsense. It has been shown in many clinical trials that both the jabbed and the unjabbed are spreading the virus. So, you Aussies, we're all equal. And I need to say that vaccine passports are not for the people, they're for the government. They work well for the government because they punish the unvaccinated for not doing what they're told and pressures them to give in. Have heart inflammation following the vax, and they know another family with 2 children hurt. We're losing the battle to save our teenagers from this toxic drug, especially in Victoria, because after being locked up for so long, they're given no option but to have the jab in order to get a life. But soon the government and the medical profession will be coming for our younger children. Pfizer is even planning jabs for infants. Whereas the virus only really attacked those over 80 and those with an average of 3 pre-existing diseases, the jab attacks all age groups. Taiwan is the first country to admit the vaccine has killed more people than the virus, but other countries have but haven't owned up to it yet. Yeah. On this anniversary of the Eureka rebellion, we celebrate the disobedience of the diggers. Okay, it won't be long. Today, almost every Victorian has a reason for civil disobedience. Those who accepted the jab did so to protect their community, unaware they were being deceived or coerced into taking a drug that doesn't work and one that could impair their health. Those who rejected the jab have lost their jobs and been treated as outcasts in their own country. Unlike Eureka, though, we won't win this battle by staging a coup or fighting the police. The police have had to take the jab to keep their jobs. They too have been hurt by this government. This war is a battle for the hearts and minds of the people. Leaders in government, medicine, science, law, the media and even religion have been hijacked to spout the same narrative. So we can't look to our institutions for help, as we found out this week. It is up to us. A small number of leaders cannot control 25 million if the people refuse to cooperate. In terms of political power, you're the underdogs. Yeah! But while you might be small in number, you're awake, you're focused, and you're operating from integrity, and that's a powerful place to start from. The mainstream media will probably describe this gathering as a super spreader event where a few thousand disgruntled anti-vaxxers, conspiracy theorists and right-wing extremists try to undermine the health of a nation. But what the bought media cannot admit is that governments that withheld life-saving measures in a pandemic and mandated a failed experimental drug with unacceptable side effects, and they foisted it onto an unsuspecting public, and this amounts to genocide against their own people. Far from undermining the health of a nation, you, the protesters, are the ones upholding and promoting health in our nation. You are the ones trying to protect our children from a useless toxic drug they never needed in the first place. You are the ones bringing truth to a pandemic narrative that's been riddled with lies and deception from the start. You are the ones offering freedom to a people oppressed by tyranny. You are the ones trying to unify a divided nation, to bring our old Australia back to the land of tolerance, mateship and a fair go that we always were. You are the ones bringing light into this global darkness. You are the freedom fighters, the heroes and heroines of the resistance. And you are the ones who will lead us to victory. Proud to walk with you lot.
So double thanks to you, Bradley.
I'm actually at the protest.
Further introduction, ladies and gentlemen, from the UAP, Ray Kelly.
Last night, I arrived in the city of Melbourne, the once great city of Melbourne. And I went around the Eureka. But in the state of Victoria today, I cannot even hire a car unless I've submitted to this medical experiment. And this morning, I met a young man that he was trying to go simply to the Salvation Army, and he was thrown out of the Salvation Army because he had not subjected to a medical experiment. So I am no longer in a great city. I am here in a fascist medical state. Now we are this weekend commemorating the 167th anniversary of the Eureka stockade. And how history has repeated itself. What they were fighting against was the fact that they had to have a piece of paper in their pocket issued by the government merely to work. That was called a miner's license. 167 years later, it is exactly the same. You cannot work in certain occupations without that license issued by the government. That is undemocratic, it is unethical, it is a violation of our human rights, and you should not stand for it. And the government may have thought there is one mistake. But I've got a message for them. The federal government, under our constitution, has the power to kneecap his dictatorial legislation. At the next election, we are going to come up here because the only thing that stands between a dictatorship in the state of Victoria and a free state is the United Australia Party. The first thing we must do is stay united. We must ignore